So, in the time that I've covered lore videos on this channel, we've covered Zanarkand a lot, going from talking about where it is on the map, how it connects to other elements in the game, etc. That's not to say we haven't covered Bevelle. We have, but not to the same extent as Zanarkand, even though Bevelle and Zanarkand have shared history throughout Spira's timeline. Well, as always, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to leave a like in this video, subscribe to the channel for more, and comment on any other video topics you'd like me to cover, or what your thoughts are on this one. I am definitely open to discussion, keeps me busy from touching grass. That sounded sad, let's continue. This time, we will focus just on Bevelle itself, going from its history to the status of what it is today and why it remains to be the only city that still stands from Spira's past. Knowing that Sin was programmed to level down cities that were growing, and perhaps what Bevelle hides down in its depths. So without further ado, let's begin with today's lore video on the city of Bevelle. Bevelle has quite a rich backstory, one that rivals even that of Zanarkand. Both cities were at the height of their powers in the Machina epoch of Spira. The people there enjoyed luxurious lives with good security. Both cities even had the ancestors of the Albed, the Bedor, develop their Machinas and made sure they stayed up and running. So the question is, where did the differences lie between these two cities? It was actually in how they invested in their resources. While Zanarkand invested more in their quality of life and infrastructure, Bevelle invested heavily in weapons. They did this because they were scared of a possible attack from their neighbor, which is understandable considering how close they were to each other and their statuses as the most powerful cities in Spira at the time. In fact, the range at which they invested their weapons went as far as creating a super machina weapon known as Vegnagun, but because they couldn't control it, it stayed underground. It turns out that in Final Fantasy X 2.5, An no Daisho, forgive my pronunciation, the scenario writer for Final Fantasy X, Kazushige Nojima, who is also the writer of this novel, he reveals that Bevelle had a pantheon of gods and goddesses they worshipped, similar to that of Greek gods. These deities were Lucera, goddess of war, Kush, goddess of abundance, Anli, god of travelers, Infernal, god of beauty, Sloan, god of vengeance, Alb, god of workers, Gard, god of the farplane, Valm, god of order, Canela, goddess of the moon, and Mayo, god of the sun. Around the time of the Machina War, Bevelle was ruled by a summoner who had branded Yevon and Yunalesca as heretics due to them straying away from these gods, which is likely a root cause of the hostilities between the two cities. The hostilities then eventually led to the start of the Machina War when Bevelle's troops marched on to Zanarkand. Their army is similar to the one we see in Bevelle from the events of the game, with monks and guards carrying rifles and flamethrowers, as well as robots capable of launching grenades and engage in hand-to-hand, or foot in this case, combat. We don't know if this was the extent of ancient Bevelle's army, but considering that Bevelle back then was more open to using Machina technology, it would be safe to say there were other weapons we were not aware of that they had used. Because of Bevelle's investment in weaponry, they had won the war, and Zanarkand was left in a pile of ruins. When Sin emerged from Zanarkand and proceeded to destroy it, the army from Bevelle retreated back to the city. It was considered by the leadership to unleash Vegnagun to combat Sin, but because the Machina could not differentiate friend and foe, Bevelle had decided against it and likely took precautions to defend the city from a possible attack by Sin. Let me know in the comment section how they think they managed to succeed in doing this for the next 1,000 years. Speaking of, Bevelle enjoyed its status as the only powerful city in Spira, as Sin went on to destroy nearly all signs of civilizations, especially those that relied on Machina and growing in number. It was also in Bevelle where the religion of Yevon was formed. Knowing that they could not defeat Sin permanently and this looming shadow would cause the people to erupt in panic, the creation of Yevon made it so that the people would have hope, but in reality, it also keeps them in check and under the control of Bevelle. If you want more information on this religion, I have a video on that of this channel, so subscribe so you can find it and see it, or just check the description, link will be there, but you should subscribe. The status quo pretty much remained, with Yevon establishing itself as the de facto governing body in all of Spira in the form of a religious cult, and the heads of the religion making their residences in Bevelle. While we don't actually get to see the insides of Bevelle, the area of it that we do access, the High Bridge, the entrance hall, the court where Yuna had her trial, the prison where Braska went and took Jet as his guardian, Via Purifico, which is an extension of the prison itself, the Palace of Bevelle, where Seymour and Yuna had married, the Chamber of the Faith, where Yuna had gone to obtain Bahamut. I'd imagine the city would be similar to that of a modern societal establishment, or one that was similar to that of Spira's ancient history. The events of Final Fantasy X-2 is where we explore more of this city, since this is where we have access to the Chamber of the Faith, as well as the underground chamber of the city, which is a central location to the story of the game, as it is where Vegnagun is housed. Unfortunately, apart from that, we don't actually get to see the streets of Bevelle and its layout, something we even saw in Zanarkand through cutscenes. It is interesting to note that despite Bevelle being the largest city in Spira, it does not have its own blitzball team. While I know early development stages of the game had a blitzball team for Bevelle, it was eventually scrapped by the full release. This could be a possible way of telling the message of Bevelle investing more in its weapons technology rather than entertainment and other things. Personally, I wish we got to see more of Bevelle, knowing the layout structure of the city, as well as sharing some of the history behind its walls. Considering that it is the largest city since the Machina era of Spira, I wouldn't be surprised if it housed documents and books detailing events that happened in Bevelle's past, and most of Spira. Although Yevon had a habit of hiding these books, maybe in Final Fantasy X-3 they'll be made available for us to read. Oh, that would be quite the treasure trove of lore videos. And lore in general. Please make it happen, Square Enix. That would be great. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, subscribe to the channel for more lore content, and comment on what topic you would like to see next. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and that, as they say, is that.